It's Tuesday, February 28th. This is an end of the day and end of the month SPY recap. We just end February here, and today we end up with a two down red bar that closed near the low of the range, and it was kind of an interesting day in terms of the price action. We'll get to that in a second, but overall, keep in mind, always bias to the downside. We have until we really got above the open of the week, which was yesterday's open up here, we're biased to the downside. We had a red week from last week, which we're at some point expecting that low to be tested. We know this is the last day of the month, which is going to close with this red shooter bar. So at some point in early March, I expect those lows of February to take out. If it does, we could continue all the way down there, but at least it should test those lows with high probability. We'll find that out in time. So given that, the bias was to the downside, you could see here on the 15-minute chart, we had an interesting choppy day where price immediately on the very first bar, it came down and fulfilled its objective of taking out the low of this red bar. We had a big red bar yesterday. You had high probability that low was going to be taken out. Either it takes it out and it runs, or it takes it out and it pauses. You never know for sure. And in this case, obviously, it paused. So you're then watching it with a downward bias overall, even though it kind of, started a little bit with a little bit of a hammer bar. Came up, try to fail here. So on the third bar, I put out a video. I bought some SPY puts. And at that point, I expected it to obviously have a green to red move, continue below the intraday low, and then on this two down day, work towards the low of last week. I mean, that was kind of the plan. And then I kind of watched the trade for 45 minutes. I showed how I shot a video saying it just wasn't breaking down. It tried 3 different times, and at some point it was at break even. And I said you could either get out of the trade now, try again later, or if it comes up, maybe take a small loss and continue to monitor it and so on. And I'll show you in a second, I took a small loss here, and then I continued to watch it. Then price essentially came up. What it did was, at this point, since you had kind of an upward structure to start the day in an overall down environment, you did have one little attempt to broaden out here and then have a shooter bar. So I guess you could have bought puts again and looked for that low to be tested one more time, given that you're kind of broadening higher in an overall downtrend. But to me, if you would have done that within 2 bars, a half hour, you saw that fail, start up, it would have been a break-even kind of trade. And there was almost, more of a possibility you were going to kind of work up towards those highs of the pre-market. I kind of discussed overall in the pre-market video how we're coming down here, and even though the targets are all lower, we could be in kind of a big choppy trading range before it heads lower. And there were a lot of days in here, like this day, where it kind of goes up, and then by the end of the day, it collapsed. There was another day back here, it did the same thing. I think it was this day. We came up all day, and boom, then it kind of rolls over. So given that in mind, price worked all the way up here. It was kind of pausing. I actually bought puts here again, and then I'll show you I scaled out here to Supernova trade. I exited right at the close on some more, and I'm holding some more overnight, given that I really think, the odds are with this kind of bar, you're going to at least try lower. I think we're going to be taking out the lows of this week, very possibly to start the month. You never know for sure, but I scaled out of a lot of the position. I'm taking the chance. So you can see here on the SPY, the very first 400 puts I bought at 430. Then I had to take that small loss, and I shot a video on that. Then I rebought the puts here at 325, the 400 puts, and I scaled out at 375 to set up a no risk trade, and then right at the close, I was able to get out of some more of it at 475. And I can see here the options actually went all the way up to 509. Because we were going down a little bit after market, but at the time it was right at the close where I was exiting at 475. So they're moving up nicely now, and if we can get a gap down tomorrow or some kind of movement, I'm willing to take a little bit of a chance. Given the odds are pretty strong, you're going to continue lower. So let's see, we start a new month tomorrow. The open of tomorrow is kind of important in terms of how March begins. You never know, we could be heading up, right out of the gates. But I still think there's a lot of things in play to at least take out these lows. What I especially look at on the weekly chart, I see these double lows here. They're like exact lows. It's hard to believe it wasn't taken out on this push down. So they're just sitting there ready to be taken out. And you have red continuity and everything else. So I just got to believe we're heading down there. It's just a matter, are you going to do it right away or maybe, in some kind of choppy fashion before it rolls over. But anyway, today was a tricky day. If you were really trading it, based on trying to get the first move of the day, I could see how you might have had a small loss to start. And then if you just didn't take this trade, I just did it based on, the fact that I discussed early on how I'm looking for choppiness towards the highs before you roll over. And, I gave it a shot over here. But if you didn't, it's just one of those days where, you might have taken a small loss and that was it. There was no reason to look to the long side. You never got above the midpoint of the prior day. You never really got above the open of the week. So there was nothing to really, bias you long. It's just a question, did you want to be aggressive and try a few more shorts after kind of failing on this first one? But anyway, we end up red today. Again, all the high probability, I would think you're going to head down here towards the weekly low, take out this double weekly low in here, and March can start off, if this really starts red, we'll see if we really get down to these three, the last 3 months lows, we could have a pretty bad month, but we'll find that out in time. So, let's see overnight how things unfold and if we follow through lower tomorrow.